Okay, literally recording under a bunk bed. Let's see how this goes. Rick and Morty seasons come and go so fast, it makes me sad. It is so weird to not have Rick and Morty around after having season 4 permeate our eyes, ears, and minds since November. Even the hiatus flew by and helped season 4 staying power in the public eye. However, now we're on hiatus with nothing left to do but rewatch the series 10 more times and indulge in our favorite pastime, theorizing. If anything or anyone deserves a speculative discussion, it's Space Beth. The new addition to the Rick and Morty cast, Space Beth is an extreme evolution and counterpart of the mother we knew. She was created to be a version of Beth who was more like Rick, and thus hates Rick. Much like any other version of Rick, or really anyone who begins to behave in a similar manner. Look at Morty, for example. I mean, come on! She even has a streak of blue hair, the color of her father's hair. You think that's a coincidence? But I was so excited when they decided to add Space Beth to the Smith family roster. I mean, she offers so much to Rick and Morty as a show, and I truly believe she's more than a one-trick pony, even if she may not be in every episode in the next season, as we've said before. In fact, her basic role in season 5 was spelt out at the end of Star Mort Return of Jerry, each point made serving as foundation for the next season. From story and lore to goofy shenanigans, here's how Space Beth can completely transform Rick and Morty in the upcoming 5th season. Rick loves his daughter, every counterpart. I mean, he's just as attached to this replacement dimension Beth as he is to the original C-137 Beth, who also kind of hates Rick's guts right now. But that is very deserved. It must tear him apart to have two versions of his daughter under the same roof that are both finally over him. They have no desire to impress or kill him, which may mean the tables are turned. Space Beth's presence may force Rick to finally examine himself and fix his flaws. At the beginning of the show, Beth would have done anything for Rick, but that all stems from the fact that he abandoned her when she was young, only to come back into her life later and arguably make her life a lot more complicated. They've had their problems and their heated discussions. The ABCs of Beth kind of exposed a lot about their relationship, so it's a big deal that Beth's finally putting her foot down and is over all the BS her father brings into their home. And it's gonna be really hard for Rick to patch up that relationship. There's already the mistrust of the clone situation, and the fact that Rick is knocked off his sci-fi pedestal. He may be the smartest man in the galaxy, but it seems like Space Beth might come in a close second. To put it bluntly, Rick's sci-fi antics aren't that interesting anymore. There's two crazy sci-fi characters now. And I feel like she has a cooler ship. I'm just gonna say it. Rick's gonna have to step it up and change himself for the better in so many ways that I'm not sure he's gonna be capable of doing. In fact, Rick's entire persona up to this point has been the person who leaves when things get rough. This could be the ultimate test for him. Space Beth may also be a backdoor way to address a big looming character that we know nothing about, arguably the biggest mystery in Rick and Morty, Rick's wife. Beth has been exclusively focused on her dad since the beginning. We haven't even heard of her mother. We really know nothing about her at this point except for a fake backstory. She has to be pretty important if Rick was willing to settle down with her for a second. I mean, he was going to abandon an entire planet of children. This guy does not seem like world's best dad. Rick's only ever alluded to his past, being cynical towards love, referring to his marriage as a failed one, and we got confirmation from Beth that Rick did leave her mom. He was the one who walked out. But we definitely couldn't talk about Space Beth in season 5 without bringing up her relationship with the Federation and other space people in general. Space Beth's main goal was made clear at the end of season 4. She's at war with the new and improved Galactic Federation, even leading her own defiance. While I doubt this will be something we focus on every episode, it's a safe bet to imagine that we'll get at least one big episode with this narrative. I mean, what other allies and enemies does Space Beth have in outer space? I mean, this would be a great setup to reintroduce characters that were screwed over by Rick in the past, but are now aided by his very own daughter. These could be people in places like Unity, the Purge Planet, the Vindicators. They could bring back all of these old characters, but in a new and fresh way. I mean, especially Vindicators. Now that Endgame is over, they could give them like a whole new roster. It could be really interesting. But more importantly, space adventures would get a lot more interesting in general. Rick's own journey and goals may interfere with the Defiance. I mean, would you be surprised if the Defiance got comically killed off in a brutal death that infuriated Space Beth, only for Rick to argue why it's not that big of a deal? Plus, we can't forget America's sweetheart Squanchy, who is still out there technically. Another conflict between Beth and Rick. If he's being used by the Federation, Beth will probably want him dead, whereas Rick will probably want to save him. Then there's the politics of the Citadel of Ricks and Mortys. If evil Morty runs with the equality angle, Space Beth will likely fall for it and support him. She may support him regardless because of her disdain for Rick, as long as evil Morty doesn't try to pull any of that take over the galaxy stuff in front of her. As the #1 most wanted in the galaxy, obviously Space Beth will have to be on her toes 24/7, and eventually she may lose, whether it's life or death or just losing support. She may have to confront the fact that what Rick said in Shoney's was right. When pushed against the wall, her downfall will not be fully embracing the lessons her father taught her. If she doesn't fully commit to the Sanchez ideology, she will fail, and the Federation might be the best way to prove that. Another interesting facet of this character is going to be her relationship with her kids. I think the potential stories between Space Beth and Morty and Summer could be one of the funniest and engaging aspects of season 5, while still managing an episodic tone. She doesn't have to just be a lore character, she's just part of the family now. Rick's main appeal to his grandkids were his inventions and sci-fi antics, but now Space Beth has cool cooler and newer gadgets, and likely won't create an invisibility belt out of sheer spite. Helping Morty with girls and jocks, other high school shenanigans, overall being the ultimate parent to Morty that vanilla Beth and Jerry can't provide due to Beth having a time-consuming career and Jerry, well, being Jerry. This could be the kind of support that would cause Morty to want to hang out with Rick less. I mean, he just wouldn't have to. Rick would lose his greatest draw. If you really think about it, Morty and his mom have never been that close. But now, Morty has more of a reason than ever to be close with this new version of his mother, whether she's the real one or not. See, Morty has always been kind of isolated in the fact that he's been dragged along Rick's sci-fi adventures and has a ton of experience in that field. Now, I know Summer also does, and the whole family gets roped in every so often, but no one has had more experience dealing with that kind of stuff than Morty, until now. I feel like these two characters are going to be able to really relate to each other, and the things they've gone through, I'm guessing, are going to be very similar. And they're mother and son, so there's already a bond there. In fact, this version of Beth could prove to be Morty's relationship with a powerful sci-fi being that is not a toxic one, but instead, a healthy one. I'm sure Space Beth would be proud to see her son join her rebellion in fighting the Galactic Federation or anything else she's trying to do. And as Rick mentioned, everyone goes through a hero phase, and I feel like Morty's primed to go through his. But at the end of the day, all this does is further divide our two titular characters, and there's no telling what the relationship's gonna look like in Season 5. But Space Beth could also help Summer, and all of her dumb teenage problems. Boys, the existential dread of your future. I mean, does Summer want to go to college, or go into space with her badass mom? Despite what it seems like at face value, Summer joining Beth in space actually makes a lot more sense. Knowing Rick and Morty, we could totally see a Bring Your Child to Work Day episode, where they go with their mom into space and see what she does. The thing about Morty and Summer is that they're already cynical to Rick, and they're very young. This new Beth can influence them to undo what Rick instilled in their heads. Not only that, but she could make the divide between Rick and Morty even greater, and could fully push Morty against Rick. I mean, Rick was already on edge at the beginning of Season 4 for having to ask permission to take Morty on adventures. I could definitely see this being pushed further. But let's take a second to talk about Jerry, because this man has 2 wives now, and it's not illegal. It's clear that he's happy with this new development. I mean, he was already relishing in it at the end of the season, but we could see a subplot where Space Beth tries to understand why Home Beth wants to be with Jerry, potentially relearning to love him. I mean, they're technically the same person. If one Beth could fall in love with this man, I can see the other one doing it as well. Space Beth could also put her foot down and help Jerry learn to be less pathetic, putting him through a boot camp of sorts to grow a backbone. I mean, that's a B-plot that writes itself. And if Space Beth is going to be training Jerry, this gives them a perfect chance to do a sort of Full Metal Jacket parody, or something along the lines. You know Rick and Morty loves its movie parodies. On top of that, Jerry may want to better himself, independent of this new Beth's assistance, in order to impress her and his family. The bar has been raised for the Smith family, and although Jerry's always been on the bottom rung of the ladder, this might be the push he needs to finally start climbing, in an attempt to try to impress her and his family, along with his endless goal to earn their love and respect. Plus, any possible love triangle or full-on polyamorous relationship between the two Beths and Jerry, it just writes itself. This next season is set up to be absolute gold. But finally, let's talk about Space Beth with her counterpart, Home Beth. This is an incredible way to have Beth indulge in some introspection and self-reflection on both sides. Beth has always struggled with who she wants to be, and her metaphorical indecision between staying home and going off into space is now physically represented in the show and cannot be ignored any longer. She has to figure herself out. In this case, both of herselves. Is Space Beth doing all of this just to spite her father? Just to be like her father? What are her motivations? Why is Home Beth still putting up with Rick in her house? Why is she putting up with a job she's not too crazy about? Although for Space Beth, being an animal surgeon probably comes handy in outer space. I don't know how aliens work, but it's a weird world out there. I see some people out there predicting that they're going to hook up. I cannot lie, it sounds like Rick and Morty. I mean, we've had like Rick and Morty hooking up technically. I don't want to think about it. I'm not gonna. Don't make me. This is just a brilliant setup because Space Beth and Home Beth will cause each other to recognize what they're missing as two separate individuals, on top of what they can learn from each other. Out of all the relationships, I think this is going to be the most interesting one to see unfold on screen, and I just cannot wait to see how they handle her character in Season 5. Adding a character to a show is dangerous, but this new space incarnation of Beth seems to only push the show in the right direction and make things more complicated and interesting for the characters, not to mention hilarious, and will no doubt lead with Season 5 being one of the most interesting and entertaining seasons of Rick and Morty to date. They know what they're doing, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. Do you like this character? Do you hate her? Do you think adding her was right or wrong? Let us know in those comments down below, or tweet to us our Roundtable vids, or me at @StretcherNemo. As always, if you enjoyed this video, you can give it a like, share it, or subscribe to the Roundtable for more incredible cartoon content. Guys, I'm Nemo, this is a Rick and Morty video, and I will see you next time. Peace.